When you plant any fruit tree, in fact any bare root tree or shrub, or for that matter even a potted plant, the process is pretty similar. First of all, pick your spot. Now I'm going to plant a fruit tree today. It's going to be a Victoria plum tree. So I've picked a space, there's plenty of area around it. It's nicely towards the front of a border, but most importantly it's got lots of light, lots of sunlight. So the sun is literally rising towards where you're looking from, and it sets just over there. So literally the full extent of the sun, virtually the whole day, is going to beam on this beautiful tree. And of course, the more sunshine hits the tree and importantly hits the fruits, the better the flavour will be. Now, a couple of things. First of all, you need some good tools. Now I've got a spade and a fork with me here. This spade is, actually it was my dad's and I've had it for years and years, so it's very precious to me. And the one thing I always say to people is whenever you buy a garden tool, whether it's a fork, a spade, a trowel or a pair of secateurs, make sure you buy good ones because they can literally last a lifetime and beyond. Now, when you actually want to start thinking about the size of a planting hole, this is the Victoria plum tree. Okay, and we can see how the roots are looking. You never ever plant a tree that's been grafted any lower than around about there. So about an inch below the grafting mark, that's the area, that's the level at which you allow the soil or the compost, if it's in a pot, to come to. And the planting hole, if we think about the width from the extent of the roots this side to the extent of the roots that side, the planting hole wants to be about double that width, and of course around about 1.5 times the depth of that. So from around about there to there, and then a good few inches again. And all of that loose soil around the roots will allow it to basically, the roots to penetrate into the soil around it and of course get themselves well established. So I'm just going to pop that back into the water. Okay, and then I'm going to start taking out the planting hole, and then away we go. Okay, so we're not quite there yet, but you can see the planting hole is plenty wide enough now. I've just got to take out about, I think probably 3 or 4 more shovelfuls of soil, and then we can try it for size. Now I always try and throw the soil literally to one side, and then if you lay the handle of your spade or fork over, that's going to allow us to gauge the depth. So we want the graft here to be just above the soil level. So that looks about right, although there's 2 things I'm going to do. Pop that back in the water. I'm then going to just get my fork, maybe just take a tiny bit more out. Let's get the fork and just break up the bottom of the hole, just because it'll give the roots an even better chance of getting away. Those stones don't really matter, that's okay. And then I'm just going to get some bloodfish and bone. Now I think this is a great product, and whenever you plant a tree or shrub, it's a great idea to stick a couple of handfuls of that in, and even just sprinkle a bit on the soil that you're going to throw back in the hole, and then of course it will get all the way round the root system. So when you eye your tree up, look at it and say, well, which side is going to look the best? Now I'm always going to be looking at this tree from the side you're on, so I think it looks nicest from that particular angle. So I'm going to pop it in the hole. I'm going to keep it nice and straight, pop the fork to one side, and then I can backfill. Now if you wanted to, you could hold it and a friend or family member could assist you in backfilling the hole. And then a little trick, which one of the lecturers at my horticultural college taught me, when you get a tree at that sort of stage, so it's kind of supporting itself now, just give it a little shake like that, and it just assists the roots in getting plenty of soil around them. And then of course, if you're not quite happy with the level at that point, I think that's probably a tiny bit low, again just literally get those like that. Now this is a very sheltered position, so I don't need to put a tree stake in here. But what I do need to do is just to give it a firm. Now I'm not really stamping it down, but I'm just firming the soil around it enough so it just holds securely. I also like to leave, you can see there's a slight bowl at the moment there, there's a bit of a drop, so whenever I water this tree, if I can maintain this little sort of opening here, the water will sit in there and of course end up literally on the right area of the roots for me. I always like to leave wherever I've planted nice and tidy, so I'm quite happy with that. I'm just going to give it a final firm, and then the water that it's been soaking in, we certainly don't want to waste that, so I'm now just going to give it the final helping hand it needs. So there's a good couple of gallons of water in here. The actual tree's been soaking in this for a couple of hours, so it's perfectly good to use. Literally just pour that just where you've planted, and you can see, because I've left that bowl, that sort of opening there in the soil, that's going to allow the water to penetrate perfectly to where it needs to go. And of course, as I said, the gap here between the top of the soil and the grafting union, nicely above the soil, so that couldn't be better. Once that's soaked in, just give it a bit more. And of course, in the first season, when you plant a fruit tree or any bare root tree, or in fact even potted trees are the same, make sure you water them whenever it's dry, but at least once a month. And of course that will make sure the roots get fully established, and then literally next summer, hopefully this plum tree is going to be booming with lots of fruit, lots of blossom in the spring of course first, but lots of fruit next July that we can make jams and pies and puddings out of.